Stop giving away your power. This is something we talk about a great deal in our life, but very few of us actually do it. We're constantly giving away our power. Now, there are two ways. There's many ways to look at life, but here are two. One is, why is this happening to me? And the other one is, why is this happening for me? Mm-hmm. Now, the universe is constantly sending us signs, but are we listening? Are we learning? And more importantly, are we taking any action? If we focus on why is this happening, we're giving away our power. My guest today is Kathryn Vrastak, goes by Kate. Now, she has seen and faced unimaginable and unthinkable heartache and trauma before she took back her power. Let me tell you something about this lady. She has 2 international best-selling books, one you see right behind you there. One is called Ignite Possibilities, and the other is Ignite the Hunger in You. She's also a mental health advocate. She's the CEO of Sacred Roots Coaching, and her passion is helping to end suicide and mental health issues. Her goal is to help illuminate trauma survivors to find their voice, become resilient, and here's the magic, reach the power of forgiveness for themselves. Kate, welcome to Life Altering Events.
Thank you so much, Frank, for having me. It's a pleasure to be here and an honor as well to be able to tell my story for your audience to maybe hopefully take away at least one thing, but hopefully everything resonates with them.
Perfect. Now, Kate, you and I spoke, and it was kind of a stunning conversation, chilling conversation for me. You were orphaned at a very early age. What happened?
Yes, I have to breathe through this for your listeners to be able to digest it, because I know in other podcasts I've been on, it's been a lot, because even professionals that I had to seek in my healing journey found it unfathomable that I went through so much at such a young age, but also in such a short period of time.
Yes.
So that being said, when I was only 13, well, actually 4 days after my 13th birthday, I had the tragic news of the police coming to my door after the fact that we had already found out that my mother and brother and my 2 best friends were killed, tragically, taking out an entire bridge. And the driver was not even accountable for his actions. He actually was only fined $100, so $25 a head, that he killed and didn't even show up at his court appearance. So I realized in life that, well, the court system can't even kind of see where your value is in life and the value of your family, because it was quite an ordeal, dragged through the courts because of this. And the individual that was charged got away with it, basically. And we were left without a mother and a brother. And my 2 best friends who survived the car accident, they had no parents left. So it was really hard to find our worth and our purpose in life at that age. As you can only imagine, at 13, teenagers, preteens, however you want to look at it, we're just navigating life, and we're trying to find our way and find our identity and how we're going to go into our next endeavor of going into post-secondary after finishing high school. Well, this all was halted because of this tragedy. Now, I want to just go a step back to this, because I think it's really important for people to hear this, because being in mental health, I didn't realize the impact that this trauma had on me until I had another incident that I'm going to share shortly. But it's all because I was always looking for love and seeking attention where I wasn't getting it because I didn't have it. As a preteen, having lost my whole world, it went upside down. But I also went deeper than that, is I was holding on to guilt and shame inside of my core because my mother didn't listen to me, because I had told her that morning she was not to leave. I had a sixth sense in my gut that something tragic was going to happen. I was bolted out of my sleep and ran to her and said, "You can't leave." And because being only a child, of course, children back then, you're to listen to your elders. You just choose that you have to listen, or else you face some kind of consequence. And while yeah, I did have a very traumatic upbringing as well. That, I knew when I had to listen when my mother spoke. So that being said, shortly thereafter, lo and behold, within a couple hours, it was confirmed that indeed my premonition, as they call it now, because back in the day they did not call it like sixth sense or premonition or listening to your gut. But now, since my healing, I've really gotten to welcome those definitions in, and maybe some of your listeners can relate to that because they're spiritually evolved. And I also have gone into other Reiki master, shaman, and different healing modalities that have helped me come to this spiritual aha or enlightenment or awareness. But that's what I was holding on to, was the unforgiveness in my cells, because I blamed myself that I could not prevent the death of my mother and brother, which was inevitable because the guy fell asleep behind the wheel and took out the whole bridge and the car. They were killed instantly. My brother was actually flown from the vehicle and held up traffic for quite a while. And symbolically or not, it was near the Terry Fox lookout. I don't know if your listeners being in Quebec, or being in the States, I should say, or in Quebec, for some of your listeners, this is in Ontario, the statue of Terry Fox, who, went across Ontario on a campaign for cancer. So this monument was very symbolic for his journey. That's where he ended up losing his life. So I found it very ironic, but also metaphoric for me to rise up above this, because this was the crutch that really broke me free from feeling that I didn't have a voice. So I went on my passion, my purpose to find my voice. And I went into becoming a missionary in the Bible college, and then realized that I had to do some healing work on my trauma that I had endured and up until that point. So going through all of that and having to go through the court battle and everything, it was quite something for a young individual to go through. But I grew up very quickly, which I'm sure some of your listeners have grown up very quickly due to trauma or due to no choice of their own, being orphans like myself, that you realize you go on autopilot. And I'm just going to stop there. Yes. Autopilot.
Absolutely.
Because that's a survival mechanism that we go on. But we negate what's really going on.
Exactly. Now at 13,
and
now
that's
14,
what I'm here to.
Going into court is got to be traumatic enough. Plus reliving everything is there's no way you can comprehend that at that age. You just can't.
It was very difficult. It also was closed casket, so I didn't have the closure. So maybe some of your listeners have gone through that, or losing a loved one tragically, like any kind of loss. It brings up all kinds of emotions because closure is so important, and it stays with your memory, how you last remember your loved ones. So like my grandmother had to ID the bodies, and it was best from their perspective that the caskets be closed because of the nature of the accident. But that closure was so challenging for me growing up, not having that, and holding on to the memories of what was before that was also hard. So what happened when I went to Bible college, I realized that it manifested as bulimia. I was stuffing my pain down, and then I was so uncomfortable, we'll just say, in my digestive system that they realized that I had ulcers, peptic and duodenal ulcer. And then, of course, because of the bulimia, I had acid reflux and rotten teeth, and just you name it, things were happening to my physical being. But it was a cry for help, because when we're trying to navigate this world, we don't trust, especially at that age. Teenagers don't trust very easily because it's like they know everything and they're trying to find their own identity. So parents are only there as mentors and guides, but really they're going to do their own thing anyway. But with me, I put too much expectation on myself because I did not want to not succeed. And I purposely needed to be needed, but also needed to be there for my grandmother, which then shortly thereafter, 5 days before Christmas, my grandmother died. So I had my whole world now say, okay, where do I go? Like my grandmother was my refuge. She was my safeguard. You know, she knew how to be there to comfort me, even when I needed her outside of what I went through as a child with my mother. And so this is what really put me in a tailspin. And I decided that, and I had no choice as a result of taking young driving. This is what propelled me into doing the healing work, is that I went on a driving test to do rear crash avoidance with Young Drivers of Canada. It's a driving school. And I happened to get rear-ended right in front of the Cancer Society building in my town at the time. I was stopping at a light, and the van behind me didn't stop and rammed right into me. And that was the moment that my whole body stopped and I just could not move. And that, I can remember, was the catalyst to help me say, okay, it's time to heal. I can't do anything else but take the time to heal. And no one was there to comfort me. No one was there to pick me up and say, you know, I'm going to take you to this appointment, that appointment. I had to do it myself, believe it or not. And it was at 16, and I'm like, oh my God, what do I do next? So reaching out to the church was a godsend, but also it created its obstacles too, because I still didn't believe everybody was for me at that time. As Tony Robbins says, life happens for you, but I had to make it for me. So I went on my journey to heal trauma. And then as I went and found people that I trusted along the way, and I really encourage your listeners to find somebody that resonates with you, that has gone through or has enough experience dealing with trauma, grief, and, you know, understands how the body works energetically, because that's why I went on the mission to understand my own body in my healing, so I could then therefore bring it to my practice of working with people. And that's why I became a catalyst now for other people to transform, because I've done my work and I continue to show up to do my work. But I went on a journey from 17 on and really did the trauma work, really did the counseling, took on modalities of healing, modalities of Reiki, shamanism, social servicing techniques like cognitive behavior therapy, and grief. I became a grief specialist, especially for children, and just a whole gamut of resources, which I believe for anybody, you can't have enough of, you know.
Exactly. Exactly.
Yeah, resources are very helpful in your journey.
You were, when we spoke, you were telling me that you were reaching out to the universe again, and maybe the accident was a cosmic 2x4 between the eyes, but then it was another one. And you said there was a tree, since you're into nature, that was part of your aha moment. All right.
Yes.
What was that?
Fast forward to that incident, and that's what I realized, being in the field of mental health and giving back and doing so much for everyone else. I was always of service until this tree hit me and made me, I just had hip surgery actually 3 months before this tree fell on my home and then fell on me. So I was still healing from my hip surgery when this happened. So I was shielding my hip when I fell, and I fell on the other hip. But that being said, the tree fell smack down on the top of my head, and I went down and I let out the biggest scream you could ever imagine. And that scream, what I really went into in meditation and neurolinguistic programming to heal, that I'm certified in as well, which has been the best tool that I have in my belt thus far, was that I realized that scream was the voice I wished I could have had as a child and would have been heard. And that same scream was a scream for help inside of me that decided, okay, no one's going to help me. I have to help myself. Because the only way, like Les Brown says, that you can get up is when you can look up. And I literally had no choice but to get up off that ground and look up and say, okay, I can put my big girl panties on and get out of this mess and hopefully heal. And it wasn't an easy journey. I'm still on it to some degree. I have to be careful still. Different things still trigger the sensation of the impact. But what it did is it got my voice into gear, because it didn't stop me. It actually propelled me to go even deeper into myself, to say, okay, my cup is empty. It made me realize that I fell down with this tree. As the yogi says, we are a tree of life, and the teacher will present itself when the student is ready. Well, that tree has now become even a stronger messenger, like even to yesterday, finding out I have roots in my plumbing now. That has made me even more aware that this tree is symbolic of the metaphor of my life. For me to root myself, to ground myself, to be supportive in what I believe in. And the old beliefs didn't serve me anymore. They, of holding back and saying my voice didn't deserve to be heard because my mother didn't hear or listen to me. I had to break those belief systems, that generational pattern that I just took in as my, way of communicating and way of life, and just accepted it. It's like, no, you have to challenge what you accept in life. You have to challenge your perceptions in life, because perception is projection. So what was happening up until that fateful day is I was projecting my pain subconsciously on everyone else, because I wasn't choosing to do the work and show up and heal at the root. And the root is that I was still repressing grief that I hadn't healed, that I was repressing the love for myself that I was giving everybody else, but it was only on a surface level. It wasn't on a really heartfelt level, because my heart was hurting. It was void of my family. It was feeling empty. It was feeling desolate, and it was crying out for help in a subconscious way, but yet it wasn't getting heard on a conscious level by everybody else until I manifested this tree. But I realized, and I really want your listeners to listen to this, that I realized when I had my breakthrough after a neurolinguistic processing session, that tree actually now is my gift. I hug it, I thank it, I honor it, because it's in the gratitude that we have in every adversity, every tragedy. There's always a golden light there that is shining for us to be grateful for what has happened for us. Even in the middle of it, we might not see it, but there's always some seed that's planted there for us to hold on to have the faith in, our higher power, in ourselves, and in our truth of what we believe is going to manifest into transformation. And I can honestly say I have my voice back now, because I had to work on it. I was stuttering when first the tree hit. I couldn't come up with my thoughts as well as I can now. And also I manifested 2 international best-selling books because of it, because I thought that if I owned my truth and speaking it, my publisher said, say it orally into a tape until you can actually write it. And my editor actually helped me do the editing, because all I could do with my first book is dictate it into the Otter app. And then my second book, I was able to type that, obviously. But wow. Yeah, it's an amazing journey, but very powerful.
It is. It is. You said something that I hear over and over a lot is you can delay grief, but you're going to have to go through it. And if you don't go through it, you're just delaying it further and further and causing more of a negative impact on your life. Is that what you found?
Yes, I did find that. And this might also shock your audience that what was the icing on the cake, why the tree happened for me, is that I had been on a 7-year journey of forgiveness through the courts for the murder that took my brother's life as well. I didn't only lose my mother and brother together, then I lost my grandmother. I then also lost my dad in there as well, but I lost my last brother. And going through the forgiveness through the court system and not feeling a peace about that, but allowed myself to lean into it, I realized that tree came to me as the gift, because I was so much on the mission to prove to the world that I could forgive, because I was in front of the courts, right? So I was very open and vulnerable, but really in my heart of hearts, I wasn't forgiving myself. So that's why now I've turned into my passion about helping others reach forgiveness, because you can feel that you have forgiven someone, but really forgiveness is for you. So if you're not digging into your belief systems and seeing what's keeping you stuck, you haven't really truly forgiven, because the best person to forgive is yourself. You can forgive everyone else, like those that killed my whole entire family, but I wasn't forgiving myself because I was still hard on myself. Like, why couldn't I, overcome this? Or why did this even happen to me? When you're questioning the why, you're not living your how out loud. Your why is your purpose and what you do, but you're attached too much of the why of how you're going to do it. But really, you just need to stop being preoccupied with that and just live. your purpose. And that's why now I'm passionate about forgiveness and helping people on that journey, because that's where the breakthrough has been for me.
I love that point you just made, Kate. One of the things I've heard and I've said quite a bit is too many times we focus on how am I going to do this instead of who can help me do this.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yes.
replace the how with the who. And that's what you're doing now.
Yes. And that's what Les Brown even said to me when he heard my story. He interviewed me. He says, wow, you give hope to my messaging that I've been sending out to the world, that hurt people do not need to hurt people. Even though I was hurt and I had my family all taken from me, I didn't go out and say, who could I get even with? Who could I take up my frustrations on? It wasn't that at all. I wanted to know how I was going to heal, what resources I needed next to heal. I reached out and invested in myself to heal. And that took a lot of income that I didn't have really allocated to that. But I said, I need to heal. My life is important. I'm here for a purpose. And I want your listeners to know they are too. They're a gift here. And even my dog is agreeing in the background. I have a little Yorkie. If you hear that dog, a little
We can hear it. That's
bark
fine.
in the back. But I'm just here to say and to encourage your audience to lean into what their gifts are. If they're not feeling that they're a gift, then they need to see what has been their best advocate in survival. Maybe it's been a mentor that's taught them how to, rise above. Like mine is Tony Robbins and Les Brown, and a recent one, Dr. Delaranto McNeil, and then even Roger Love. I have a lot of different coaches and mentors that I pull in on their resources, like even Marianne Williamson and Maya Angelou, sorry. There's so many, and Louise Hay. So I pull in all these different resources to help me, because you're not helpless. You are helpful in your own right. And I created even an acronym for help, but I'm here to say you can help yourself if you ask for help. And that's what Les Brown said. Kate, you really knew how to ask for help to get where you are, or you would be where you are. And that's what I can honestly say. I reached out, and first I had to heal myself, do the work for myself. But by doing that, I had to ask for help. You can't suffer in silence anymore. And it shouldn't even be an issue for you to suffer like that, because it's not right. We're here as a community. We're here together collectively. We're all one. We all can heal with an aspect of each other because we can resonate on one level or another. And I'm here to say that inner child still needs attention and will scream at you until it gets attention, because we all have an inner child within us. That inner child wounding needs to be addressed. And that's what it connects to our belief system. So so don't focus on how you're going to do it. Just reach out and say, why am I here? Well, okay, this is what I want to do. And that's what I did. I really, truly leaned in and said, my life is here for a reason. My whole family's gone, but I'm here and I'm chosen to still be here. God is obviously, and the angels were watching over me to still be here. So what am I going to do with that? It's my choice, and you have a choice too. And I challenge you to lean into that choice. Life is a choice. Let's
touch on Les Brown a little bit. You speak at events with Les Brown, which is very powerful. And I read you have an acronym for forgive. Can you quickly share that with us?
Yes, I've created this acronym because I've learned to help myself. But forgiveness to me is finding the freedom within your heart and soul and connecting the two of them, not being in your head, but connecting your heart with your soul purpose. And that's what I became about, is speaking that soul purpose. And yes, I started with writing books and then being on podcasts and TV and a lot of different other platforms. But I'm here to say that really the essence of forgive for me is letting go of those emotions of anger, sadness, fear, shame, and guilt, and allowing yourself to say there's more than those emotions. Those emotions are what controls you, and they don't propel you in the right avenue of moving forward. They can keep you stuck and held back. So if you want to challenge yourself what forgiveness is, I'm also offering a free gift to you here after the podcast that will walk you through this process. And it's a neuro-linguistic processing that you can do on your own, and then reach out to anybody that resonates with you that does the work to help you heal. But that freedom that you get from releasing those emotions, like I did that fateful day, to be able to now look at daylight and sunlight after that tree, is miraculous. I wouldn't have my legs underneath me if I didn't. That being said, what I have chosen to do because of my healing journey is open my heart. And that's what allowed the forgiveness in. my heart was closed because I didn't know who to trust. I didn't know who to turn to. And I had to really pick and choose along the way because I didn't want labels. I didn't want to keep stuck in those labels, and I didn't want to hold myself back either. So I really had to learn who I could lean on. So the best person was myself. So I had to look at myself in the mirror every single day and say, who's here today? Who's showing up? And I had to be real. And some days wasn't as nice as the other days, but I leaned in. So open your heart for the O, to reach out and also receive help by learning that you can't do it alone, listening to that inner whisper, that inner God source, and say, oh, this is where I have to go today, or I'm going to make this phone call today, or that friend really knew what to say to me then. Maybe they're going to give me a hopeful message today. So reach out, call, text, make those connections. Even like I did, start Facebook groups of communities of like-mindedness. And it really has blossomed my healing journey and transformation. Then the next one is R. In doing the opening of your heart, you receive so much gifts, so much abundance, and so many opportunities because you're reaching out to receive others as the gift to you as you are the gift to them. It's a give and take and a win-win. So the R is so powerful. And then the G is give yourself that opportunity to be your own gift of that peace, the joy, the inspiration for others. Because when you can embrace your gift, like getting flowers yesterday for me was a huge gift for me that I've never had flowers given to me most recently, especially since my concussion. And that to me was a gift. So how do you treat yourself as a gift? Do you take care of yourself? Do self-care? Do you, schedule that massage when you need one? Do you call a friend and say, let's just go out and have a coffee now that things are opening up? Be that gift. See what it is for you. And then the I in forgive is following that intuition. So when that inner whisper says, like it did for me, go to the water, because I was so cooped up after being sick just in January, that it said, go by the water. And sure enough, after my chiro appointment, I went to the water and I saw 3 eagles. An eagle is a spiritual totem. And it was such an eye opener for me that I was on the right path. So I researched it and I Googled it to see what that totem meant. And yes, it was an aha for me. So follow your intuition. It never steers you wrong. So I is for the intuition, and V is value. Find yourself in the value of what you represent. So what values do you hold? Is it that you are in integrity? To me, it was all about integrity and confidentiality because of my work that I do, but also compassion. I showed myself compassion, but if I'm going to hold compassion for somebody else, I have to show it to myself first. So I learned what my key values are, and I write them every single day. And I try to practice them as much as possible because that's what you're known for. And then you become credible when you walk and talk in your values. Walk your talk. And then the E is empathize. Empathize with yourself. Give yourself some slack. Don't be so hard on yourself. That was my biggest detriment from my healing progression, is that I became very critical, my own critic. And because I was a perfectionist too, and seeking for approval from everybody else because I didn't have it from my family, I learned how to walk my talk and be empathetic towards myself, because I can do that for others. I can put myself in their place and say, oh, I resonate with that, or I know how that could feel, even though I'm not going through it like you are, but I can empathize. That is really when you can see the transparency in your journal writing transform, where your goals are going to manifest your visions and dreams. And that's what I can truly say has been my saving grace and really flourished my career in speaking and my career in healing practice, and even my own personal healing of physical well-being, because I wouldn't be here today, even looking at an O-ring light, if I wasn't on my own healing journey. So walk your talk, be it in everything that you say and do.
Kate, how can people reach you? What's the easiest way, the best way?
The easiest way is to go to my website, because even my books are on there, www.sacredrootscoaching.com. I also have on my IG is for sacred_roots. And then I'm also on Facebook as Kate Vrastak and LinkedIn as well. But it's easy. You can get all my links through my website. So www.sacredrootscoaching.com. And my 2 books, Ignite the Hunger in You and Ignite Possibilities, is also on there. And I'm so blessed to be part of the Ignite the Hunger in You with Les Brown that just launched in December. So yeah, so
It's outstanding.
I hope you get inspired by those books.
Ladies and gentlemen,
You will. For sure.
go to that website, www.sacredrootscoaching.com, read this story, get these books. It's worth the time and the energy and the effort, believe me. But we're just about out of time, Kate. I want to thank you again. Every time I hear this story, I get chills. It's amazing and incredible what you've been through and finding your power and transforming not only your life, but so many other people. So, ladies and gentlemen, as we say every week, life is going to throw a lot at you, as you heard today. Maybe not as much as Kate has, but life is going to throw a lot of things at you. Remember this, pick up the pieces and start moving forward. Even if it's a half a step a day, start moving forward. Kate told you how to get a hold of her. You can see this show on ROKU TV or on my YouTube channel, Frank Zaccari. And if you go to YouTube, please subscribe. I will send links to Kate when this comes out, and she'll put it at all her locations. Now, let me leave you with this, as I do every week, ladies and gentlemen. None of us are in this alone. And the secret to walking on water is to know where the rocks are. And today, Kate showed us where many of those rocks are. Join me again next week for another life-altering event. Kate, thank you again. This was incredible. Thank you.
My pleasure. And I just want everyone to know forgiveness is for you first. Know that you are worth it. So thank you for this time. And Absolutely. It becomes easier the more you do it. So thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you.